Ethan worked nights at an indoor water park outside the city. His shift began after the final families left and ended shortly before the morning staff arrived. Most nights, he tested the water, cleaned the filters, and checked that every attraction was switched off. The wave pool was always drained to half its normal depth overnight. At 1:17 one morning, Ethan heard splashing. The sound came from the deep end. He assumed an employee had forgotten to leave, but the security system showed that everyone else had clocked out. When Ethan entered the pool area, the underwater lights were already on. A head moved slowly across the surface. "Park's closed," Ethan called. The swimmer stopped. Only the top of its head remained visible. Ethan aimed his flashlight toward it. The head disappeared beneath the water. He waited for it to resurface. It didn't. Ethan contacted the security office. The night guard checked the cameras and told him the pool appeared empty. Then the guard became quiet. On the recordings, Ethan wasn't alone. Dozens of people stood motionless inside the wave pool. They formed a perfect circle around him. Ethan looked at the real pool. There was nobody there. The wave machine activated. Water slammed against the sides of the pool as the emergency lights began flashing. A red rescue tube floated from the deep end toward Ethan. The park's name had been removed from it. Someone had written Ethan's name across the plastic. He stepped into the shallow water and reached for it. His flashlight illuminated the bottom. Human-shaped shadows lay beneath every lane of moving water. They were arranged side by side. All of them were facing upward. Ethan dropped the rescue tube and ran to the control room. Every security monitor now showed the crowded wave pool. The figures were no longer standing in the water. They were walking out. One by one, they climbed onto the tiles and turned toward the control room camera. Their clothes appeared decades old. Some wore swimsuits from the 1970s. Others wore modern clothing. Several wore employee uniforms from the water park. The final person to leave the pool was Ethan. His duplicate looked directly into the camera. Then every monitor went black. Ethan tried calling the police, but his phone connected to the water park's internal announcement system instead. His own voice played through every speaker. "Wave session beginning in 5 minutes." The doors locked automatically. Ethan searched the maintenance records and discovered an incident report from 1986. Before the current park was built, the property contained an outdoor swimming complex. During a nighttime storm, its wave machine had activated while the pool was closed. The following morning, a lifeguard found wet footprints surrounding the empty pool. 3 employees had disappeared. The old pool had been filled with concrete. The current wave pool had later been constructed directly above it. A metallic knocking started beneath Ethan's feet. He entered the maintenance tunnel below the pool. At the end of the passage was an observation window that did not appear on the building plans. Black water pressed against the glass. A man floated on the other side. He wore Ethan's uniform and had Ethan's face. The duplicate placed one hand against the window. Ethan's radio activated. "You're on the wrong side," his own voice said. Cracks spread across the glass. Ethan ran. Behind him, the window shattered, but no water entered the tunnel. Instead, wet footsteps followed him through the darkness. He reached the main entrance just before dawn. The glass doors were chained from the outside. Someone stood in the wave pool behind him. It was the duplicate. It stood upright on the surface, holding Ethan's flashlight. The figure raised one hand. Every light in the park switched off. When the morning manager arrived, he found Ethan outside the building, soaked and unable to explain how he had escaped. The wave pool was empty. The security recordings contained 43 minutes of missing footage. Management told Ethan that exhaustion had probably caused the incident. He resigned that morning. 1 week later, the night guard sent him a photograph. It showed the wave pool at 1:17 a.m. A single head was moving across the surface. Standing at the bottom of the pool was Ethan. He was looking upward, waiting for someone to come closer. Maya explored abandoned buildings and filmed them for a small online channel. During a storm, she entered Clearwater Kingdom, a water park that had been closed for 16 years. The property was completely overgrown. Trees grew through the splash pools, and most of the slides had partially collapsed. According to an old map near the entrance, the park once had 12 major slides, but Maya counted 13 towers. The final structure stood behind the others. A black enclosed slide twisted around it from top to bottom. A faded number 13 was painted beside the entrance. The slide did not appear on any photograph of the park. As Maya approached, its floodlights switched on. She climbed the rusted staircase. Fresh water flowed down the steps, although the pumps had been disconnected for years. At the top, Maya discovered wet barefoot footprints leading away from the slide. They continued across the platform and stopped at the railing. A red inflatable tube slowly emerged from the black opening. Water dripped from it. Maya shone her flashlight inside. A child whispered from somewhere deep in the tube. "Is the park open again?" Maya called out but received no answer. Then her backpack disappeared. She could hear it sliding through the tunnel ahead of her. Maya entered the slide to retrieve it. The tube should have descended directly to the pool below. Instead, it continued horizontally through complete darkness. Hundreds of photographs were attached to the walls. They showed visitors standing at the top of the slide. Every photograph had been taken from inside the tunnel. Maya recognized several faces from missing person articles about the water park. The most recent photograph showed Maya climbing the staircase moments earlier. Another picture showed her crawling through the slide. The final photograph showed someone following her. Maya looked behind her. The entrance was gone. A child-sized silhouette appeared around the next bend. It wore an old employee wristband and carried Maya's backpack. When she moved closer, it crawled rapidly into the darkness. Water began rushing through the tunnel. Maya followed it until the slide opened into a circular underground room. 7 identical tunnels surrounded her. Inside each opening stood another version of Maya. One was dry. Another appeared much older. A third wore an employee uniform. All of them spoke simultaneously. "Take the slide you arrived through?" Maya couldn't remember which tunnel that was. The water continued rising. She noticed that 6 of the duplicates copied her movements perfectly. The 7th did not. That version was pointing toward a tunnel behind her. Maya entered it. The slide suddenly became steep. She fell through darkness while voices counted backward from 13. Instead of landing in water, Maya dropped into the park's empty splash pool. The storm had stopped. Morning light covered the property. When she looked at the tower, the black slide was gone. Only 12 structures remained. Her backpack lay beside the pool. Inside was a photograph she had never taken. It showed Maya trapped in the black slide. The child stood behind her. Maya left the park and uploaded none of the footage. Several weeks later, she reviewed the files again. One recording continued for 13 minutes after her camera had switched off. It showed the empty entrance to the black slide. At the end, Maya crawled out. The woman in the recording wasn't wearing her yellow raincoat. She wore an old water park uniform. She looked into the camera and whispered, "The park is open again." Laura had worked at a municipal swimming center for 18 years. Every morning, she arrived at 4 to prepare the competition pool. One Monday, she found an old white lifeguard chair standing at the bottom of the deep end. A man sat on it. He wore a white uniform and held an antique stopwatch. Laura activated the emergency alarm. Nothing happened. She called the police and then looked into the water again. The chair was gone. The responding officers found nothing inside the pool. They suggested that reflections from the ceiling lights had confused her. The following morning, the man returned. This time, he was standing beneath lane 4. He looked directly up at Laura and raised the stopwatch. It had stopped at 4:13. Laura lowered a rescue pole toward him. The pool seemed to stretch downward as the pole entered the water. Although the deep end was only 4 meters deep, the pole never reached the man. The building plans confirmed that nothing existed beneath the pool except a narrow service corridor. Laura searched the facility's archives. An old photograph showed the swimming center's first lifeguard team in 1988. The man from the pool stood in the back row. His name was Peter Vale. Peter had disappeared during an overnight shift. According to the report, staff found his whistle and stopwatch beside lane 4. Security footage showed him entering the water at 4:13 a.m. He never resurfaced. Laura returned to the pool office. Wet footprints crossed the floor. They began at the observation window and ended beside the archival photograph. Someone had circled Laura's face in a recent staff picture. Behind the glass, Peter stood beneath the water. He pointed at the clock. It was 4:12. The lane ropes moved toward the deep end. They curved downward into a black opening that hadn't been there seconds earlier. The lifeguard chair rose slowly from the darkness. Old whistles and stopwatches floated around it. Every stopwatch displayed 4:13. The pool lights failed. Laura heard a whistle beneath the surface. When the emergency lights activated, Peter was sitting in the chair again. A second empty chair stood beside him. Laura ran toward the exit. The facility's speakers activated with a recording of her own voice. Pool inspected. No swimmers present. The clock changed to 4:13. All the water disappeared. For 1 second, Laura saw what lay beneath the surface. The pool had no bottom. Hundreds of empty lifeguard chairs descended into darkness. Peter stood among them and held out Laura's whistle. Then the water returned. Laura escaped through the staff entrance. Management closed the facility for 2 days, blaming a damaged filtration system. Engineers found nothing unusual. Laura refused to return. 3 months later, the swimming center reopened with new employees. During his first morning shift, a young lifeguard noticed a dark rectangular area beneath lane 4. 2 white chairs stood inside it. Peter occupied one. Laura sat in the other. Both looked upward. Laura raised an antique stopwatch. It changed to 4:12. The second hand began moving.